Welcome to the channel. So, what is ETOPS? Let's start with the background. Historically, twin-engined aircraft weren't allowed to fly more than 60 minutes beyond a suitable diversion airfield.
Come back! Come back!
Went a bit wrong that bit, didn't it? As technologies advanced, diversion reduced, and twin-engined aircraft were allowed to operate beyond 60 minutes from a suitable diversion airfield under ETOPS, which stands for Extended Twin Operations Procedures. There are many professional acronyms for ETOPS and several unprofessional acronyms such as engines turn or passengers swim. So broadly, ETOPS is a safety standard allowing operations more than 60 minutes away from a suitable airfield. Let's firstly debunk a myth. ETOPS only applies to overwater operations. Well, of course it's more common, but as ETOPS comes into play when flying more than 60 minutes beyond a suitable diversion airfield, in my experience I've encountered ETOPS over parts of Africa, Australia and South America. Our example flight is San Francisco to London Heathrow, and it couldn't take the route it did if it weren't for ETOPS. The route would need to go further north and therefore longer, burning more fuel. I'd also offer that without ETOPS the airspace would be more restricted, and in relation to weather, and I'm thinking more about winds, flight planning would be restricted to the winds in a more restricted airspace, whereas using the Atlantic as an example, the NAT tracks are regularly adjusted so the routes encounter more favourable winds. Why does this matter in the sim? Well, we're going to use the FlightFactor 777 version 2 in our examples, which is an aircraft that simulates failures. Failures can happen just by neglecting maintenance duties, so if it is likely you will need to divert, we can improve your airmanship by helping you understand your ETOPS alternates. Even when not flying under ETOPS, it is good practice to plan and know your en route diversions. By the end of this video, you will understand the terms ETOPS Entry, Equitime Point and ETOPS Exit, as well as the terms adequate and suitable airfields. So let's just have a look at this flight plan again. These smaller rings around Goose Bay and Keflavik, so both of those are our ETOPS alternates. The smaller circles denote that we are 440 nautical miles away from them, which is about 1 hour's flying time. So you can see that once we go beyond the smaller circle here, until we get to this point here, we are going to be more than 60 minutes flying time away from a suitable diversion airfield. This is where ETOPS comes into play. So along this section here, we come under the ETOPS point of our flight. Now, we enter it just here on this circle, exit just there. You can see that in a bit more detail now I've zoomed in to this on Navigraph charts. So from here to here, 400 nautical miles, and from the exit point to Keflavik, again 440 nautical miles. So that's the part that we was just looking at on the SimBrief flight plan. So from here to here, we're under ETOPS. So how do we know which alternate to use? Well, before the Equitime Point, we'll go back to Goose Bay. Beyond the Equitime Point, divert to Keflavik. So before we get to here, we are of course within an hour's flying time or 440 nautical miles of a suitable diversion. Beyond here, we're under ETOPS. However, until we get to the Equitime Point, we'll go back to Goose Bay. Once we go beyond the Equitime Point, we'll divert, if we had to, up to Keflavik. And then once we get to the ETOPS exit, we are then within an hour's flying time or 440 nautical miles of a suitable alternate. Those of you just looking at this in a bit more detail, you might be thinking, well, you can see the distances here. It's actually 200 nautical miles from entry to Equitime Point, and it's 300 from Equitime Point to exit. It's not always those distances, but what this is just illustrating is that this is an Equitime Point, not an equidistance point. Now, a little bit of homework for you. What do you think is your most critical point here if you had a situation requiring a diversion? So I'd be thinking, I hope you are too, your squeaky bum moment is at the Equitime Point, because that's where you are just in the middle of nowhere. So if you want to go play with this part, and I certainly recommend you do, go to the ETOPS scenario within your flight plan. So your target scenario, that's normally set to auto. However, if you wanted to set it to something, so as was generated using ETOPS 138, what does that mean? It means we can then be any route so long as we are no more than 138 minutes from a suitable ETOPS alternate. Keep this in proportion though, so as you've seen, I would say the maximum we were from a diversion, just round it up, we'll say 2 hours. So once you come down to these values here, you know, you're looking at things like that's 6 hours, isn't it? I think there's one of these values that basically will allow something like 95% of the world's routes. So probably across the Pacific, you might want to be cranking this up a bit. And as well, if you were flying over the Atlantic, maybe accepting a bit more of a southern nat track, again, you'd want a higher value here. While we are still in SimBrief, I want to show you this part, user guide. On the user guide, you've got an interactive OFP sample. On here, I mean, if you haven't seen this part before, the ETOPS part of your flight plan, go have a read of it. But you'll notice when you hover over something, you've got a little pop out that just explains each item for you. So adequate airport we've spoke about, suitable airport we've also spoke about. So why is there 2 listed? I think of it this way: draw your range rings around your adequate, divert to your suitable. So in our example, as you saw, they were the same. Here in this example they're not. I'm doing another flight at the moment from Amsterdam over to Toronto, and both adequate and suitable have got different pairs. Alright, so range rings here, divert there, and of course your weather has got to be suitable during the period that you might need to divert into the airfield. And then just to confirm as well, we've spoken about the ETOPS entry point. So again, it mentions that you are no longer within 60 minutes flying time of a alternate, and likewise with your exit, you will then be back within 60 minutes time of a suitable alternate, and the equitime point as well. Quite a lot of info there, but it's basically saying before you get there, go back. Once you get there, carry on. Let's enter the data that we're going to need into the FMC for the ETOPS portion of the flight. So you don't have to do this on the ground, and as we fly off into the sunset, that seems to be perfect time. So the first way I'm going to show you is we're just going to enter a range ring around our first adequate airfield, so 420 nautical mile range ring around that, and then when you get close to it, you'll see something similar to what I've just shown you on the screen. So the next way, just to enter the ETOPS coordinates, so let's enter those. You're going to find those from your flight plan section, as you can see on the screen. And just to make that stand out a bit clearer, again, I put a 50 nautical mile range ring around there. Next up, I enter my equitime point. Again, to make it stand out, 50 nautical mile range ring around it. And finally, we'll enter our second adequate airfield, and again, another 420 nautical mile range ring around that. So, have you done this before? I mean, what about you, I'm a fly? Tell me what you do.
I go to bed, leave it on overnight. I wanted to auto step climb and then be ready on approach when I get up in the morning.
But seriously, if you haven't done this before, I think it's really interesting. Add a bit more depth into understanding your flight plan, and certainly that situational awareness. There will be another follow-up video. There's plenty of other stuff that we can do at a sim level, so do like, subscribe. Thank you for viewing, and I will see you soon on a future video. Take care, bye bye.